Today I'm going to talk about parenting and how parenting can be optimized for your child, especially tuning in to who they are and how you can empower them. I'm all about using the human design reports and the human design charts to empower people and to tap into who they recognize themselves at. So I'll share my screen, I'll share my PowerPoint, and we'll get started with the presentation. Share my screen. Okay. Let's see. I'm not be able to see. Okay. So, whoops, I need to go back. So this is parenting using human design. And there are different types that communicate very differently, and aligned values can enhance relationships, while conflicting values create stress. So in parenting, it's extremely important that we honor each other's emotional reactions and transform them. So as a parent, the parent needs to be aware of the vulnerabilities of the other person when they're relating. This goes for all relationships. So be aware as a human design practitioner that you want to always express the way you're reading a chart using empathy and compassion, because you may not be the same type as the other person. If you're a human design practitioner and you're working with parents, you want to empower children so they manifest their fullest potential. And you want to help parents gain simple tools that can help their communication. I want you to know a little bit about me, who I am, and why you should listen to me about parenting. Um, I've worked with relationships as a clinician and master coach for over 50 years. Early in my career, um, I became a lead trainer for parent effectiveness training in Chicago because I saw the need to help parents empower their children. I had two young children when I finished my PhD, and I had worked with some of the best developmental psychologists in the world. And what I found was that I didn't know what to do with my children. I knew everything intellectually, but I wanted to honor who they were as individuals. So a lot of my work has been about communication and how can we empower people at the soul level of their being. In 1999, Ra Uru asked my husband Marvin, who's an MD, and myself to validate human design scientifically. I was trained as a Jungian analyst. I studied the Kabbalistic tree of life. I'm a trained astrologer and a licensed psychologist, a certified coach, and a consultant on hypnosis, and I'm the world expert now on human design. My research scientifically is based on 45,000 cases, 30,000 statistically, and another 15,000 clinically. So I know in design what's valid and effective, and I've written 8 bestsellers some on human design, some on noble energy maps, and some on Reiki healing. So if you're at this webinar, you know human design, you know what to look for, and your practice can help people, parents, empower their children so that their success as parents go through the roof. When you base your readings on the science of what works in human design and is valid, you're guiding your clients based on psychological principles that have been documented to work. So if you don't look at the science, you may be misleading parents, individuals, and disempowering children. I'm all about empowerment. So the human design chart shows how you function in the mental waking world. That's the world of everyday life and consciousness. And we teach children how to behave in their culture, how to navigate it. That is the human design mental waking world chart. In parenting, it's quite essential to recognize that communication operates on many levels. There's memories associated with parents, and they get triggered emotionally. So children can trigger their parents and vice versa. But by understanding the inner dynamics of parenting and the child's chart, you can recognize how to transform triggers. What you need to know to empower relationships is that a lot of perceptions are beneath the surface. Knowing how channels and gates operate can help you advise parents on how to empower their children. Trust yourself to empower your clients by remaining open to their input about their values, their goals, and always ask them, does this ring true for you? When I'm doing a reading for someone, I stop many, many times and say to them, does this ring true? Does this get you? Do you feel this represents you? Be open when a person says, no, that's not exactly right. Look further. Speak transformationally. There are 5 verified types, not 4, 5. A child's manifesting generator strategy is to envision what he wants, to wait to be clear that his action is aligned internally. So as a parent, you ideally ask the child what he's considering, ask him to envision different possibilities and how they may play out. And always, always encourage, regardless of type, for the individual to wait for clarity before acting. Also, if the child is a manifesting generator or a manifester, others need to know what they are planning to do. So as a parent, you want to discuss plans. You want to teach a manifester and a manifesting generator to wait for clarity. Parents empower the child when they pay attention to the child's inner knowing and they respect it. A child's generator strategy is different than a manifester. The child as a generator is known to wait and should wait to know what he knows is right for him. and to stand firm. I always say to people, when you know what you know, and no one can tell you you don't know, you're not selfish, you're not stubborn, you're aligned to your inner self. And that is important for a parent to tell the child that he can take all the time in the world until he knows what he knows, and then to encourage it. And when a child says, I really know this, don't dismiss it. That's who the child is. The projector strategy is taking time to gain clarity about the inner self, what the child wants, what he perceives. The way I use projector strategy is not to say, wait to be recognized. Rather, wait to know what you know, because the projector child needs to recognize within himself what aligns energetically with him. And when a parent teaches a projector child to wait for clarity, that's when the projector child is empowered. A reflector child is very different. The reflector child is picking up energy from all over, very sensitive, and may be sensitive and think that what he's feeling is him, when it's really that he's picking up the energy of the people around him. So reflector children are very sensitive to what other people feel. It's always important to ask a reflector child if what he's feeling rings true for him, or if maybe he's picked up energy from someone else. Teaching a reflector child that he may be picking up energy from around him, very important. So the core concepts in parenting and parenting connections are how the different types work together, recognizing individual decision-making and the timing of that so there's harmony. We have single, split definition, triple split, and quadruple splits, and they impact relating. We also have electromagnetic, compromise, dominance, and friendship channels and how they relate. And we have the role of hanging gates in attraction and repulsion. So I'm going to take you through some of these with input on how that might serve different types and different parenting. The ways to determine your child's timing is the type, the channels, and the centers. You want to notice which centers are open and is there emotional definition. Now, one of the things that I work with in all of my readings and all the charts I do is the awareness that in the tree of life, which is included in the synthesis of the Bodygraph, one of the vulnerabilities has to do with emotional reactivity. And we want to teach children, especially, that when they are emotionally reactive, that emotional reactivity can be transformed into higher octave thinking and relating. And I'll go into a little bit of how that operates. So what I've done here for you is to show you an electromagnetic connection with the channel 659. I chose channel 659 mainly, excuse me, because it is so critical as a channel that is responsible or could be responsible in a parent-child relationship for transforming emotional reactivity into higher octave consciousness. In this instance, one person has one gate and the other person has the other gate. So together they form a whole channel. Now, they're going to have a strong chemistry and attraction. The person with the sixth gate may be emotionally reactive. The person with gate 59 is able to transform emotional energy through the emotional world. And in human design, we don't talk about the multidimensional nature of consciousness, but I did talk about it in the lectures that I did with Ra that appear in the Triple Design Matrix book that came out a couple of months ago. And in that book, Ra and I talked a lot about portals and the gates and channels that can access other dimensions of consciousness. For your work on parenting and creating reports for parenting, pay attention to the channel 659. If one person, if the child has gate 59, his parents must be especially mindful that he's going to take on responsibility of trying to make the other person who's emotionally reactive with some kind of resolution. So if the child has the 59 and the parent has the 6, the child may take on too much responsibility. And what you want to do then is to encourage the child or encourage the parent to take the child off the hook. Get their emotional reactions under control, and especially do not react to a child with the 59th gate emotionally, because that will be too much of a burden for that child. Not at all healthy for a parent to be emotionally reactive and dump their emotions onto a child. The compromise channel is quite different. In a compromise channel, one person has a defined channel, and the other person only has one gate of that channel. So the person with the defined channel may exude more energy and clarity in that area of consciousness, resulting in a little bit of an imbalance. If one person has channel 3410, they bring intense energy and lots of ideas about what they want to have happen in the relationship. The other person may have input that may be beneficial and it requires openness, but they need to align in decision-making and relationship dynamics. So in the parent-child relationship with channel 3410, communication skills to use in this channel would be active listening. So there needs to be receptivity on both people's parts. So if the parent has the complete channel, they need to listen to their child before giving input. Think about that. If the child has only one gate, it could be the 34, it could be the 10. But the parent has all of it. So the parent with the 3410, I always say, someone with the 3410 marches to their own drum. 34 is the taming power of the great, and 10 is role, and the role you're going to play. So notice that the lower trigram of the 34 is the upper trigram of gate 10. And we have a strong gate 10 with only one yin line of the hexagram, whereas gate 34 is taking input with two upper trigram yin lines. So you want, if you have the 3410 as the parent of a child, or if you're writing a report for someone where the parent has the 3410 and the child has one of the two, advise the parent to stop and listen to what their child needs. Does the child want to take on a role, do something in the world? Do they have a gut feeling that they want to do something? And if the parent steps in too soon, they take the energy away from the child. You do not want the parent to do that. So in the parent-child relationship with 3410, it's going to activate intense instinctive energy, the 34. Gate 10 activates self-direction. So balancing the energies in this channel is tricky for the parent more than the child. In my view, the parent has responsibility, regardless of the child's design, to empower that child, to always be looking for ways to trust their child, to let the child know that they're trustworthy in what they know about themselves. Advise the parent to listen before giving their viewpoint. Children are sensitive to their parents' authority. The goal of good parenting is to empower the child to know, and I bold the K because I call it knowing with a K. It's knowing who you are and what aligns with your inner self. As a parent, you want your child to be empowered and to align internally with who they are. The dominance connection, I picked channel 731 as an example. Dominance occurs when one person has the whole channel and the other person does not have either of the gates. Notice that the channels I've chosen to illustrate in parenting are ones where if the parent takes too much of a leadership role, they can undermine the self-esteem and the empowerment of the child. In a dominance connection in the 731, the person with the defined channel will likely feel empowered, and the other person may not feel connected to that energy. So if the parent-child relationship with the 731 is a channel of leadership, so the person with the defined channel is going to want to take the leadership role. If the parent has 731, they must be willing to ask their child what he wants to have happen before assuming leadership and imposing their values on the child. The communication is key in parenting to maintaining aligned values and energy in that relationship. And that is so critical and so important in empowering the child. So in a parent-child relationship with channel 731, and look at the trigrams again, I put the cards in that all of these cards are in my Beyond Human Design book, which goes through all of the channels. But notice the different trigrams, and that gate 7 is in Leo, but the lower trigram is water, and the upper trigram, all yin, is earth. So the 7 is open to being led, but the 31 likes to receive and then take charge. Mountain and lake over it. So if the child has the whole channel, he may feel frustrated if his ideas are not honored. So if the child has this channel of leadership, the parent would do well to give him age-appropriate leadership roles, so he learns to lead in loving, compassionate ways. If the parent does not do that, the child is liable to become somewhat belligerent, argumentative, and ignore what the parent wants. Thus, listening to the child in all channel configurations will maintain aligned values and aligned energy. Note that the channel is activated by the astrological sign of Leo in both gates. Study the hexagrams and the trigrams. Consider the yin, the open, and the yang, the solid lines. And always look at the hexagrams and trigrams. Encourage the person with the defined channel to inform the other person of their perceptions, their ideas, and their plans, and remain open to input before implementing anything. Feedback is crucial if it's a strong design in the parent's chart, and less so in the child's. Now, I also picked the friendship connection. In this case, both people have the full channel, defining a harmonious, natural connection. So if two people have it, they're both going to bring strong intuition. In channel 3457, I specifically chose channels that might present some problems in a parent-child relationship because I wanted all of you to be well-versed in how the channels can come together in parenting and to use your expertise in encouraging them in a channel like 3457 to bring their intuition and presence into the relationship so they empower each other rather than one person feeling disempowered and the other person feeling empowered. When they both have the full channel, they may have different views. So in this case, the way to communicate would be by listening to the child before giving any input. Mirroring is a good technique for that. Mirroring means you simply repeat what the child has said. Now, you could do it in a little bit of a summary. I heard you say blah, 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 blah. Did I get that? You want the child to feel like a fully empowered person, not like they're less than. You want them to feel secure within themselves and what they know. So be open in a friendship connection to the child's viewpoint. Always in parenting, let your child speak first. Let your child tell you what he feels, what he wants, what the intuition he has. And if the child is intuitive, is sharing something of the self, validate it. Parents validate children. They do not disempower them. That way, the child has high self-esteem and can be really living their true self. So I've developed a system that transforms relationships without activating conflicts. And you can engage with your customers for your reports in your first contact, even if they're new to human design, by letting them get the parenting reports and understanding the parenting dynamics without showing step by step how to look at the charts. So there are some general descriptions that I've written for parenting reports, and hopefully they'll be available on the Bodygraph program. So if the ajna is defined to the throat center in the child, the description of the child is, well, in general, what it is that creativity pushes for answers to deep questions when the ajna is defined to the throat. In addition, you're sensitive to what others think and may pick up telepathically on their thoughts. So at times, someone with the ajna to the throat can feel overwhelmed by information, and they need to change their focus and wait for clarity and answers to come to them. They need to trust their process. So for parents, what I say is your child is intelligent and curious. His questions and probing for creative solutions put pressure on him mentally. You want to support the quest for knowledge and understanding and recognize your child's capacity to tune in energetically to information beyond what's apparent. If you support that in a child whose ajna is defined to the throat, you'll raise a child who's creative, empowered, expressive, and most importantly, thinks outside the box. Here's an example of the self defined to the sacral center. Now, in general, you want to trust your experience, listen to what it guides you toward. You always have energy that tells you to move forward or wait for clarity, because the sacral center, defined to the self, is giving you a sense of momentum from your inner gut response. So because of the strong sense of self, someone with the self to the sacral can use their inner responses to move toward goals when the timing is right. Always wait to feel secure and balanced. And someone with this definition does best when they take the time to know what they want and consider how to make it happen. So always ask, what is right for me? Trust your answer when it feels deep inside. And they need courage to let other people know their boundaries so they can take care of themselves. So in parenting, the child has a strong drive for self-esteem and self-direction. Support his self-reflection and always communicate with neutrality. Because what you want to do if the child has the self to the sacral is you want to allow the child space to self-reflect and to share what he needs and wants before you're giving input. So once your child gains clarity, you have an opening for deepening communication. Your child, with the sacral to the self, has a strong innate sense of who they are and what they need. Encourage the child to speak up about his needs and teach him how to take proper action. That will give him the experience to know what triggers his responses and to encourage self-determination. So as he gets older, you'll be able to trust him with his inner instincts and to stay balanced and aligned and responsible. Here's some suggestions for the parent of a manifesting generator child. The child needs to envision what they want and wait until it's clear. So you want to ask your child what he's considering and ask him to envision different possibilities and how they might play out. When in conflict with your child, it's important to remember you're the parent. Your job is to help your child transform emotions into clarity. Ask your child, what would you like to have happen now? Listen without judgment and ask. And when that happens, what do you envision might happen next? When you do it this way, or when you put it in a report this way, you're giving your child authority over himself. And that goes a long, long way because you want your child to trust you as a parent and to be transparent with you so that you know what's really going on with your child. So, suggestions for a parent of a manifesting generator child. The manifesting generator child with open centers may be vulnerable to picking up energy and emotions from other people. Observe your child's body language and ask open-ended questions. I say giving your child, manifesting generator child, authority over himself goes a long way to transparency. And you could ask, if you see, for example, that your manifesting generator child is out of sorts or emotional, ask, what happened just before you felt emotional? What happened just before you felt sad or angry? If your child is unaware and you notice your child is stressed, ask, I'm wondering if you have some insights about whatever it is that's going on with him. This takes interpretation away from you and puts it where it belongs, which is inside the child, and getting the child to communicate with you as the parent. Some practical applications. Align within yourself and your values before you interact with your child. Honor your values and inner guidance to make correct parenting decisions that empower the child. Work on parenting patterns that create misalignment by learning skills to communicate. And just be aware that the mental waking world of the human design chart is not the complete picture of consciousness. So when you're communicating with your child, be aware that there may be levels of the unconscious that are being activated. And so you want to always give the child authority over himself. You want the child to feel that you're the listener, not the authority imposing something on them. What disempowers a child more than anything else is not getting their communication and inputting communication that makes the child concerned about letting their views be known. You need to understand the role of type in parenting dynamics. I went through the 5 types, and what is clear in all types is that you as parent are not here to have your child understand you. It's your job to understand your child and to respect your child's sensibilities and their timing. So if the child has many open centers, now a manifesting generator and a manifestor child can have many open centers. In my human design chart, I'm a manifestor with channel 58, 18, 48, 16. Yet all of the other centers are open. So I'm super sensitive to energy. And I was very blessed that my parents generally would say to me, we trust you. We trust your judgment. Do what you think is right. But many parents with an open child who is picking up energy, if they are too quick to give the child input, the child may take the input thinking it's right for them when it's not. And you want, as a human design practitioner, to encourage parents of children to not label their child and to not prejudge their child, because that takes the power away from the child and it disempowers them and creates a disproportionate balance in the relationship. So to go back and review, you want to look at the 5 types and think about the strategy. Think about what the type is of the parent who is interacting with their child. And I do have 2 books that I would recommend for you. The Parent Effectiveness Training book by Tom Gordon is probably the best communication book for the mental waking world and how to communicate when your child has a problem or when you have a problem with the child. So I put links in to so you could find them on Amazon. And the other book that I think is one of the best parenting books around is called Compassionate Child Rearing. They're both old-time books, but very powerful in teaching parents how to talk to their children, how to know what kind of communication skill to use. If the child is emotional, you want to use more clean language and ask the child, what would you like to have happen? The quickest way for any relationship to stop an argument dead cold is to say to the other person, given all this, what would you like to have happen now? It sets the person back. It makes them go inside and ask themselves, where am I and what do I want? Now, if you're dealing with a child under the age of 6, that may not be fully possible. But in that case, if you're dealing with a young child, you can also break the ice and not give in to the child, but hug the child, do something physical, break the pattern so that communication can open up. In parenting, it is all about communication. Communication that empowers the child, communication that puts the focus of what is going to happen in the relationship in the child so that you know where your child is before you give them new input. This is the mandala synthesis that I use. As you know, human design is a synthesis that includes the tree of life and chakras, the astrology and the I Ching. And in Noble Energy Maps, I've included developmental psychology. You can see I've written quite a few books. The Triple Design Matrix book was written with Ra, and there's a new book out called Human Design and Health, which also was written with Ra. and it contains a commentary on all of the health information. You can schedule appointments with me or get a free and paid report on Noble Energy Maps. And this is the latest book. And I will stop my sharing.
Eleanor, thank you so much. We have a question
anybody,
from.
if anybody has questions, I'm happy
Yeah.
to take a few minutes and answer them.
Katri, I think what we will do is I will allow you to unmute and you can ask the question directly. If that's okay by you, I think it will be
Sure.
much easier. I don't know, Katri, if you're there.
I don't see any questions.
On the Q&A, we have.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's see. Which book, Melissa? I have 8 different books. You can go to Amazon and just search for my name, and all of my books will come up. I have a book on astrology, on Noble Energy Maps, 2 books I've written with Ra, well, actually 2 books published that I've written with Ra, which actually contain 6 books that I did with Ra. Does the sacral defined to self mean sacral connected to the idea? Yes, that's what it means. There are 3 channels that go up from the sacral center to the self center, the identity center. Those are very important channels, very key in direction of the self. The channel 214 is actually called Direction of the Self, Keys to the Kingdom. And when I see that in somebody's chart, I always focus on encouraging them to ask if they're going in the right direction for themselves. If a child has that, or any of the 3 from the sacral to the self-identity center, you really want as a parent to have the child tell them what they want before they give input. And the next is, I'm saying that the manifesting generator needs open-ended questions. No, open-ended questions are not only for projectors. Manifestors and reflectors, yes, no, no. A lot of the type definition is a little bit disempowering and a little bit misleading, because it's always about, especially when we're talking about parenting, but even in relationships, we want to have open dialogue. And I see projectors as needing to understand and recognize what's going on inside of them, not so much to be recognized by others. That puts them in a wait mode and does not allow them the empowerment of how they come together in a multidimensional perspective. Yes, I have extensive experience in children diagnosed with autism. I did my postdoc internship at a children's daycare, a lot of the time sort of split between children at the day school and adults. And throughout my more than 50 years as a clinician, I've worked with all kinds of children. Yes, they can be applied to any kind of relationship. One of my specialties as a clinician was in relationships, but also consciousness. And I've been extensively trained in all of the uh, components of the human design system. I'm an expert in the tree of life, in astrology, in as a Jungian studying the I Ching. So yes, um, and I tend to always look to asking the other person um, how they can be empowered and trust that if I empower them, they'll empower me. I don't think, uh, I think I got all the questions. So, anything else that you,
We have one.
one more?
Yes, that just came in. But yeah.
Any key insights when parent and child are both projectors? Parents. Um, well, let me say, um, if you go to Noble Energy Maps, you will see that the human design chart is a part of the whole picture. So let's say both the child and the parent are projectors. The parent is the adult, and therefore, when the parent recognizes what's right for the parent, let them ask the child what's right for the child. Do not project onto the child something that does not fit for the child. So be sensitive if your child is a projector to ask them, what do you know about whatever it is they're dealing with? Let's say the child has had a hard day at school. Ask them, what do you want to have happen? What do you know about this child at school? What do you know about what you learned or what you feel? So it's always about empowering the other person to communicate with you if you are the parent. I believe in parenting, in honoring the soul of the child. And my values are generally anchored in spirit. So don't impose anything, even on a manifesting generator child. Ask them what they want to have happen. Then give your input. Get your child to speak before you speak. You'll learn a lot more about who that person is. Does that answer it for all of you? If any of you have questions, always feel free to email me. I can put my email, well, my email is ehp@noblesciences.com, and you're always free to communicate with me.